Put yourself in position to win big on Kentucky Derby Day with the power of daily racing form. Visit shop.drf.com and get past performances, expert picks, betting strategies, clock reports, and more. Again, that's shop.drf.com. Dan Illman, Mike Beer rolling right along on Kentucky Derby Saturday with Grade 1 stakes action. Race number 10 is the Churchill Downs Stakes. We're going 7/8 of a mile for $750,000. Click the subscribe button for the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel and get the latest DRF analysis and news. Here's the field for the Churchill Downs Stakes. You'll notice that the number 1 White Abarrio is cross-entered in the Westchester at Belmont on Friday. Expected to run here, but the big name in the race is the very popular Cody's Wish, who took down the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year and just got so good towards the end of the season. 4 consecutive wins, 4 for 5 for the entire season.
Yeah, capped that really good 4-year-old campaign off, Dan, with the win at the Breeders' Cup around 2 turns. But he kind of made his name for himself 1 start prior to that when he ran down Jackie's Warrior in the Forego going this distance.
There should be some speed, you would think, in this race, but we throw up our Timeform US pace projector and we see a fair pace expected. And Fortin Hill is a horse that can do it either way, can go to the lead, showed a new dimension, perhaps sitting off of the pace last time out. I guess he can be forward. Sir Alfred James, I feel the same way with. He's the kind of horse that could go to the front, but could also sit. I don't really see any burners in this race, Mike.
Yeah, I feel the same way about it. It's one of those races where the more you go through it, the harder it is to think that this pace is going to be, even close to fast, Dan. I mean, maybe they won't walk up there, but I just didn't see where the speed is really coming from.
White Abarrio won the Florida Derby last year, finished 16th in the Kentucky Derby, but he's sort of being reborn now as a 7-furlong miler type for trainer Saffie Joseph. Here's his most recent start, dropping out of the Pegasus World Cup, a race where he didn't run very well. He turned back to 7 furlongs. He faced a decent field of allowance runners, and he got a good confidence boost. This is the best we've seen him in a long time, and he ran a career best buyer in the triple digits.
It's a really nice performance. This is a pretty solid allowance field here, Dan. He just puts the boots to these horses. He kept right up close in a pretty good trip here, took over when he was ready, and he just blasted that field in fast time. He's always sort of given off that impression that, going a little bit shorter would really work for him. I think he showed that last time. Maybe he gets aggressive from the rail here, Dan. He's got plenty of speed if they want to use it.
The veteran, the number 2 CZ Rocket, was still good enough to finish second in the Breeders' Cup Sprint in 2022 at the ripe old age of 8. They ran him in the Dubai Golden Shaheen last time out. I think the way that track was playing, it worked against him. I'm concerned about the lack of pace with him in this race because he's a true one-run closer.
I'm concerned about it too. I mean, I don't know that this race will set up great for him. I think it's also, listen, I know he ran second in the Breeders' Cup Sprint at the end of last year. And there's, that's a really good performance for him. I still feel like he's lost a step or two along the way. And I just don't really feel like that really top race that it might take to win this is going to be available to him.
I wonder if last time was the time for the 3 Hear Me Song, a horse who looked a little bit dirtied up based on the synthetic lines, 2, 3, and 4 starts back, got back to dirt in the Grade 3 Commonwealth and was able to pull it off, Mike, at 11-1, showing off a strong stretch kick.
Yeah, I agree with you that it kind of feels like that this was maybe the time to have him at a really good price. That being said, he ran really well in here. He made a strong move on the outside around that turn there. He gets hooked up in a duel here with Hoist the Gold, who's also back in this field, and he's going to prevail at the end. A good performance, Dan. Maybe he can run back to it. And listen, he was 11-1 last time. He's 30-1 on the line in this race. If you like him, you should bet him.
I agree. He's likely going to be around 20, 25, 30-1 in this race. He's in very good form. His dirt lines are all good. It'll be interesting to see if he needs that kind of setup, though, from the back. And if the pace is slow, it could work against him. We just saw Hoist the Gold finish second to Hear Me Song. He's right next door to Hear Me Song in gate number 4. Hoist the Gold ran well that day. He's always been a solid horse. He was third in the Malibu. No threat for Taba that day, but just overmatched. I'm not interested in the Mine Shaft 2 starts back. That distance a little bit long for him. He's a solid horse, but another one that may need a little help up front.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they elect to ride him this time, Dan, because you're right. I mean, he's pretty versatile. I mean, there aren't any races really on his card where you see them, especially sprinting, where they just come out of there running and try to make the lead. But he's not slow early. I mean, go back and watch that Commonwealth last time from the start. This horse broke from the rail. he could have made the lead if his rider wanted it, but they didn't want it. They let that pace go to sort of sit behind horses, then get to the outside. And he ran really well in that race. He was just second best at the end.
Boy, I needed to get her number in the Cigar Mile last year. He went off at 8-1. I thought all in all, the trip worked out for him up close to a moderate pace, made a strong bid, and Mind Control's just a toughie and was able to outgame him down to the wire. His last race was the Commonwealth. He ran third. And as we've seen in his last couple of starts, he wasn't great out of the gate and not as quick as he's been perhaps earlier in his career, but he has several races in the past that make him tough.
Yeah, we'll see if he can run one of his good ones. The lack of early pace in this race is a real issue for him because he's one who, to me, he just doesn't really have that much speed. I'll just say this about him. I agree with you. He ran well in that Cigar Mile at the end of last year. He had no chance two back when they cut him back into San Carlos. They just went 1-2 around the track in that race, and he was way too far back, but he was making up ground at the end. He didn't break right last time, Dan, but he got bumped after the start of that, or else he wasn't going to be as far back as he was. And Rosario, listen, I understand what he was doing there. He kind of got this horse buried behind horses around that turn there, and it really cost him at the end.
Tejano Twist is another late runner, a horse that got really good at Oaklawn over the winter. He took the Grade 3 Whitmore 2 starts back. Then ran third in this race as the favorite, the Grade 3 Count Fleet Sprint, going 3/4 of a mile. The issue with Tejano Twist is he needs a lot of pace up front to set up his late kick. He's going to come for a run to be third here. Now he's going to have to do it going 7 furlongs in a race that might not set up for him.
Yeah, that's the big issue with him too, Dan. He's actually really good, but he's just a one-run closer. And it doesn't feel like this race is going to set up great for him. He ultimately didn't. I mean, it looks like he regressed in that race last time. I don't think he did. He ultimately had no chance in there with that winner, who all of a sudden for Asmussen's just gotten really good and looks like one of the better sprinters in the country now.
Cody's Wish, the Godolphin Homebred, is up next, the winner of the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. We're going to watch that race right now. And he didn't break very well in this race. He was last on the rail going into the first turn. Junior Alvarado made a very smart move on the backstretch, sort of getting him into the four-path and in the clear, and he made an outside bid on the turn. He's going to confront a pretty good horse in Cyberknife here, and he's going to get the better of that horse in the last 70 yards. I'm a little concerned that he's had problems from the gate in some of his races, and if he is slow here, he might be behind a slow pace that could work against him, but he's very talented.
I agree with all that stuff, Dan. I mean, the only real issue for him is there's a layoff here to deal with, obviously. There may not be a lot of pace for him. He's never really been great from the gate, so that could work against him as well. I really liked his Breeders' Cup, though. He was super when they went 7 with him in the 4-go last summer at Saratoga. He's way the horse to beat, but if you're going to beat him, maybe this is the day to try to do it.
Fortin Hill expected to be up close to the pace, actually on the lead according to Timeform US's pace projector, and he's coming off of a win in his seasonal debut during the Keeneland Spring Meet, going 6.5 furlongs. This is a horse that's shown speed in his career. He sat back just a bit in this race and is going to run by the embattled leaders in the last 16th of a mile. It was a good effort. He earned a 97 Beyer speed figure. He does have figures on the go back, and maybe if they're aggressive with him, he can control a moderate pace at a big price.
Yeah, that would help. Certainly. He looked good winning this race, Dan. We'll see how he handles a step up. I mean, to me, he's just one of those horses who never panned out. Early in his career, when Chad Brown had him, it looked like he could be anything. He won 3 of his first 4. There's a triple-digit Beyer in there. He just looked like he was going to be really good, but they could never get a full campaign out of him. He missed a lot of time, and since they've gotten him back into regular racing, I don't know. I just kind of feel like he never really panned out, but he deserves a shot in this race.
The number 9 is Sir Alfred James, who ran 4th in this race last year with Blinkers. Blinkers will go back on for trainer Lynn Cash. Didn't fire last time out at Keeneland in the race we just saw. Fortin Hill won it. Sir Alfred James finished 7th. He's a horse that can get forward in his races. I think Rafael Bejarano is going to be really aggressive. I'm just not sure Sir Alfred James is up to this task from a class perspective at this point in his career.
I'm not either, but your point's well taken about the kinds of trips that he can pull in his races. I mean, it feels like you never know what is going to happen with this horse, but he is certainly fast enough to go to the lead if they wanted to try to get there.
And I never thought I'd say it, but the number 10 Endorsed is a Win Machine. And this is a horse that once lost something like 21 or 22 races in a row, but Boy, Michael Maker's gotten him good. He's won his last 3 races at Gulfstream, a couple of graded stakes races going a one-turn mile, including this effort, the Gulfstream Park Mile, where he runs by the highly touted odds-on favorite Charge It and goes on to a win with a career best buyer. He's going to be turning back to 7, and I think he's more of a closing type going 7/8 of a mile, but it's hard to ignore him in the form he's in right now.
Yeah, I'm not dismissing this horse. I think he's super dangerous in this race just based on his last 3 races, particularly that one, Dan. It came back fast. They got him up close to the pace that day. So if this pace is super slow, he's not going to be outrun early. I don't know. I didn't pick him in this race. I have no knocks on him.
Steel Sunshine is a multiple stakes winner, but another horse that likes to come from off the pace in these 7/8 of a mile type races, as he did in the Sir Shackleton last time out. He is far, far back and widest turning into the stretch. He's going to come with a good, honest run to finish third, only beaten a half length, but he's going to be facing tougher horses at Churchill. He drew a tough outside post position, and he's going to need some pace and race luck.
Yeah, I mean, another trip like this one isn't going to do him any favors in this field, Dan. He just came from way out of it and made up a ton of ground at the end. It was a good performance, but he can't get that kind of trip in here and be effective.
Let's take a look at our top pick for the Churchill Downs Stakes. Huge fan of Cody's Wish. I think he's the best horse in this race, and if he comes back and gets a trip, I think he's supposed to win. Unfortunately, you're not going to get any kind of price. Mike, you're looking for that price with Get Her Number, who certainly has back races and an excuse for his last start.
Just want to take a small shot here at a price. I'm not way against Cody's Wish, but maybe we can catch him off the layoff here and if things don't go great for him, maybe we can take him down. Get Her Number. I didn't like the trip he got last time. I know his best race is good enough, Dan, if he can find a way to run it and catch some kind of pace to run it.
5, 7, 10, 1 for Mike. 7, 10, 1, 11 for me. It's the Churchill Downs Stakes. We'll see if Cody's Wish comes back as good this year.